The Porsche 550 Spyder was first introduced in 1953. The car was fast, sleek, low to the ground, and was designed and built specifically for use in auto racing. The car featured a 1.5-liter air-cooled aluminum block engine with double overhead camshafts, a twin 2-barrel downdraft carburetor, and dual ignition. The mid-engine Porsche 550 also featured a synchronized 4-speed gearbox and a limited slip differential, all very advanced features for its time. The 550 Spyder was also the winner of many races, including the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Carrera Pan Americana. One of the first Porsche 550 Spyders built was purchased by young Hollywood actor James Dean in 1955. Immediately after purchasing the 550 Spyder, James Dean entered the car into the Salinas road race scheduled for the following week. Unfortunately, James Dean never made it to the race. He was killed in a car wreck on his way to the event. James Dean was only 24 years old. Since the crash, events and stories surrounding James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder have come forth, suggesting that the car carries a curse. In today's episode, we will be looking into the curse of James Dean's 550 Spyder. Since his tragic death in 1955, actor James Dean has become a cultural icon, representing teenage rebellion and disillusionment. At the age of 19, James Dean attended UCLA as a drama major, but dropped out after one semester to pursue an acting career. Dean found steady work in commercials and was cast in numerous small roles on television. James Dean got his big break in 1953 when he landed a major role in the motion picture East of Eden. His critically acclaimed performance in that movie earned him an Oscar nomination and led to a starring role in the 1955 motion picture Rebel Without a Cause, a film that proved to be highly popular amongst teenagers and cemented James Dean's legacy as a rebellious, misunderstood outsider. Not wanting to be typecast in the role of a rebellious teenager, James Dean followed up Rebel Without a Cause with a starring role in the movie Giant, where he portrays a Texas ranch hand who becomes wealthy after striking oil. This was to be James Dean's last role before his untimely death. He was posthumously nominated for an Oscar for his role in Giant. James Dean had always been interested in fast cars and would race cars as a hobby. He owned several sports cars and motorcycles, including a Triumph Tiger T110 and a Porsche 356. Dean competed in several professional road race events and placed first in the novice class at the Palm Springs road races. In September of 1955, after filming wrapped up on his last motion picture, Giant, James Dean traded in his Porsche 356 for a brand new Porsche 550 Spyder. Dean immediately entered his new car into the Salinas road race, scheduled for October 1st and 2nd, 1955. James Dean was eager to race his new high-performance machine, which he nicknamed Little Bastard. James Dean hired Porsche factory mechanic Rolf Wutherich to accompany him to the track. Wutherick encouraged James to drive the car up to Salinas so he could get a feel for the car and to break the car in. On September 30th, James Dean and Rolf Wutherick were traveling on Route 466 on their way to Salinas. As they were traveling westbound, a car traveling in the opposite direction made a left turn in front of Dean's car. Unable to stop in time, James Dean slammed his Porsche into the passenger side of the other car. Rolf Wutherick was thrown from the Porsche and survived the crash, while James Dean remained trapped inside the car. By the time James Dean arrived at Paso Robles Hospital, he was pronounced dead on arrival. One week before the fatal crash, acclaimed British actor Sir Alec Guinness, perhaps best known for his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie, ran into James Dean at a Hollywood restaurant. James Dean invited Alec Guinness to join him at their table, to which Guinness accepted. Before sitting down to dinner, James Dean excitedly told Alec Guinness of the new car he had just purchased and insisted on showing it to him. As soon as Alec Guinness saw the car, he was overcome by a feeling of hopelessness and dread. He sensed something evil about the car and warned James Dean to never drive it. Guinness said that if he did, he would be dead within a week. In an interview broadcast on the BBC, Sir Alec Guinness recounted his fateful meeting with James Dean and of the ominous warning he issued to the young actor.
I only went to a little Italian dive, and that was full. And so one got turned away. I said, honestly, I don't mind just a hamburger anyway. I was hungry by then. And then I heard feet running down the street, and it was James Dean. And he said, I was in that restaurant, you couldn't get a table. And my name's James Dean. He said, will you come and join me? So we said, yes, very kind of him. And then going back into the restaurant, he said, before we go in, I must show you something. I've just got a new car. And there in the courtyard of this little restaurant was I don't know what the car was, some little silver, very smart thing, all done up in cellophane with a bunch of roses tied to its bonnet. And I said, how fast can you drive in this? He said, I can do 150 in it. And I said, have you driven it? He said, no, I've never been in it at all. And some strange thing came over me, some almost different voice. And I said, look, I won't join your table unless you want me to, but I must say something. Please do not get into that car, because if you do, and I looked at my watch, and I said, if you get into that car at all, it's now Thursday, whatever the date was, 10 o'clock at night, and by 10 o'clock at night, next Thursday, you'll be dead if you get into that car. I don't know, nonsense. So we had dinner, we had a charming dinner, and he was dead the following Thursday afternoon in that car. It was one of those odd things.
Has it ever happened to you before?
No, I'm glad to say. But it was one of a very, very odd, spooky experience. He was I liked him very much too. I'd love to have known him more.
Yes.
After the accident, the insurance company declared the 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder a total loss and sold the car off as scrap. The car was purchased by Dr. William Estrich, who salvaged parts from it. Dr. Estrich installed the Porsche's engine into his Lotus race car and gave the transmission and some suspension components to his friend and fellow racer, Dr. Troy McHenry. The two men entered their cars into the 1956 Pomona Sports Car Races. Dr. Estrich crashed his Lotus during the race, but luckily he survived the accident. On the other hand, Troy McHenry was not so fortunate. Troy McHenry crashed his car into a tree and did not survive the accident. In 1956, custom car builder George Barris purchased what was left of the 550 Spyder in the hopes of restoring it to its original condition. The wreckage of the car proved to be beyond repair, so instead, Barris sent the mangled remains of the Porsche to be put on display at car shows across the country. Barris ended up selling off 2 of the tires from the Porsche. The new owner of the tires installed them on his Ferrari. While driving on the highway, both tires blew at the same time, forcing the Ferrari off the road and crashing into the bushes. Fortunately, the driver survived the accident. While the Porsche was on display at a car show in Sacramento, the car fell off of its display stand, landing on an attendee. The bystander suffered a broken hip in the incident. On another occasion, truck driver George Barkis was transporting the 550 Spyder to a road safety expo. While offloading the Porsche, a cable snapped, causing the car to fall, crushing and killing George Barkis. Finally, in the spring of 1960, James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder was being transported by train in a sealed boxcar from Miami to Los Angeles. When the train arrived in Los Angeles, the Porsche was gone. Somewhere between Florida and California, the car mysteriously disappeared. Despite an extensive search and a $1 million reward for the return of the car, James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder and the curse of the little bastard have remained missing for over 60 years. This concludes today's episode of the Paranormal Report. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. The team at the Paranormal Report really appreciates your support.